Hey everyone, so it's a beautiful, beautiful day here in New England, lovely early spring day. And what today's project is going to be, we're going to be making a compost and soil sifter so that you can get your soil ready for your garden, get rid of all that debris that you don't want in it. In my prior YouTube videos, I have showed you where you do not want the hard sticks, you don't want any stones because that'll keep your plants from germinating up. And also it'll keep the roots from going down and forming nicely in your soil. This is also going to be part 2 of a video that I made earlier on a composting. I showed you what you can compost, got it all in my composter, getting ready to break down this year. And then we're going to take a look at some older compost that was in the composter that I'm going to go ahead and sift through. So we're going to get started on this project. I've got all my materials all ready to go. I've got my wood that I'm going to cut to different lengths. I got a piece of hardwire cloth, chicken wire. Now, what you want to use is you want to use the hardwire cloth, which is actually the smaller square holes. You can use chicken wire, but chicken wire is not as strong, and you want to have a little bit of rigidness and strongness to this because you are going to be putting soil on top of this. I also got my angle brackets, and in my pouch I got my various drill bits, but what I'm going to be using today is I'm going to be using these things that are called gimlets, where they're actually for starting screw holes, so that you can actually hand screw rather than using power tools. I'm going to try to keep this project as simple as possible. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so if you notice, my boards are actually all different sizes. This is because I'm using scrap wood that was laying around the house. This is not going to be a finished project, so I really don't care about the type of boards that I'm using. Mostly what I want is to make sure that the actual thickness is the same so that it can actually lay flat. So this is about the good size so that I can go ahead and sift over a 5-gallon bucket or a Rubbermaid bin. So I'm going to go ahead and score the wood where I'm going to cut it. And I want to try to make sure this is as square as possible. So I'm going to score that one there. And score that one there. And then I'm going to score this one right here. So I'm using primitive tools today. I'm going to be using a folding saw, so let's go ahead and start cutting this wood. Alright, so we have all our wood all now cut to size that I need. What I want to do now is I'm going to take some of these angle brackets, and I'm going to go on the inside of each corner, which will provide the strength needed. And I'm going to go ahead and mark the holes. Now, unfortunately, my picnic table is not exactly even because of the age. So I'm just going to go ahead, put a mark on each one of these holes. So again, these are a hodgepodge mixture of screws that we're just laying around down the basement because we don't waste anything here. We don't buy unless we have to. And gimlets are really easy to use. So I'm going to go ahead and start my holes. So all you do is just put where you marked it. And with a little bit of pressure and twisting. So I'm going to go ahead and get the frame all assembled. Okay, so we have our frame crudely assembled. As you can see, it's not perfectly square. Like I said, I'm using a bunch of scrap wood. I'm using a bunch of scrap angle pieces, various screws that were just sitting around down the basement, so not all the screws match. Like I said, I'm just using up what I have because right now cost of materials is absolutely ridiculously high at the time of recording this. So got it all laid out. I was going to use screws to hold down the hard wire cloth, but I decided what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and staple it. Stapling will allow me to put down more, and it will also hold it down a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and just mark this where I need to cut it. So right about there. So I'm just going to go ahead now and trim and cut this to my size that I need. Alrighty, finished project. Homemade compost sifter. Now let's go sift some compost. Okay, so what I have here is I have two buckets. I have my blue bucket, which is going to be my finished soil, and I have my white bucket, which is going to be what's going to go back into the composter to finish breaking down. And oh, I actually got a worm inside my blue bucket. Well, that's good. Worms are always good. I'm going to go ahead, now that my compost is not frozen, I'm going to take from the side that's been composting for a little while, and I'm going to scoop it into my white bucket. I'm going to try to do this without stepping on the tulips and the daffodils that are coming up over here. Alrighty, well hopefully the camera's picking this up, but as you can see I got everything out of that side of the composter, which is the finished soil. So this is all nice black soil for planting. Doesn't actually look that bad. The only thing is you can see I still got some materials in here that haven't actually broken down, which is some people would say that's good enough, but I'm going to go ahead and sift it anyway. Alright, so how we're going to do this is we're going to go ahead, we're going to take our blue bucket, which is going to be our finish, and we're going to lay our sifter right on top. And then we're going to take from the white bucket and begin scooping it out and placing it on top. And then, just like I said we're going to do, we're going to sift it. First, I'm going to go ahead and do this with my hands. Actually, at this point, it might be easier just to go ahead and do it with your hands. Or, like I said, you can just take it and sift it. But this soil right here is still a little bit moist. So as far as actually sifting it, alright, so that's the first pass. And as you can see, what we got inside now is we got nice, loose soil, no clumps. So I'm going to go ahead do this bucket. Okay, so one of the other things is I have a pot. This right here has your basic top and garden soil in it. It was used last year. As you can see, there's all stones in it. So I want to go ahead and sift this out too, because this is good compost garden soil from a brush pile that's just kind of sitting in the back. And as you can see, it's all nice and black and everything, but there's a lot of stones, there's a lot of sticks and everything else from just stuff piling up over the years. So we're going to go ahead and sift this as well. Yeah, you don't want to be afraid of getting your hands dirty. You walk in the soil after all. Okay, so as you can see, the stones we got in here, these are good stones to have for drainage to the bottom of your pot. So I'm going to go ahead and get a third bucket to put these stones in. These are good stones. You know, when you want to add to the bottom of your bucket to allow for drainage, but you don't want all your soil leaking out. So I'll be right back. All right, so I moved over to the picnic table where it's a little bit more ergonomic to work instead of being hunched over. This is why it's nice to have a picnic table, even if you don't eat off of it, or some type of table to work outside. I'm just scooping the dirt that had all the rocks in it. It's organic matter here. I'll go ahead and throw into that barrel. Not too worried about the amount of organic matter that gets in my rock bucket, because like I said, those rocks are probably going to be used for putting at the bottom of the pot to help with some drainage. Every so often you need to tap this to open your holes back up. And like I said, I could sit here sifting it like this, but this soil is good soil. It's pretty thick, it's very moist, so it's not going to sift easy by shaking it. So that's why I'm using my hand. So this is how people did it back in the olden days. They didn't have the modern machinery. Some of your small homesteaders that can't afford modern machinery, go ahead and do it the same way. And a lot of your small gardeners still do it this way too. Making your own soil is probably one of the best things you can do, because you know exactly what's going in it. I've said it before. I bought soil that had those stupid white gnat flies, the fungus flies they call them. I bought soil that turned out to be nothing but clay. I bought soil that was very sandy, just did not hold the water or drain the water properly. So making your own soil is actually the best. Now you want to be careful too, because if you got moss that's growing on the top, you want to get rid of that, because that's a fungus. That's not good. Alrighty, so the wind's picking up a little bit. Hopefully it's not messing with the audio. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and work on the bucket that came out of the compost bin. But I just want to show you from that flower pot that had all the rocky soil in it. After sifting, hopefully the camera's picking this up. This is what we got. Nice, black, rich, organic soil. Practically got enough in here to go ahead and plant another one of my plants into its bigger pot for the summer. So let's go ahead, we're going to put this on top, and we're going to use the flower bucket we just emptied out to put the thicker organic stuff in that needs to go back into the compost bin to further break down. So as you can see, as I'm scooping it out, this came out of a compost bin. So this is all nice composted stuff. And as you can see, I got a lot of organic material in here that isn't finished breaking down yet from last year. So we're just going to go ahead and put that over on the other side of the compost bin that is full of all our new stuff. And the reason why I want to do that is this stuff right here has a lot of microbes in it that will help speed up the breaking down of the newer compost. And oh, so I got a plant tag, Gidgey Gold Garden Mum. Had to be from my mom's plants. My mom grows mostly flowers. They do a little bit of vegetable gardening, but not much. They're really into flowers. Trying to get her to grow the medicinal and herbal ones that I can make teas and other stuff with, but she's not into that. So we're just going to continue massaging this down, taking all the big stuff that hasn't broke down yet, putting it into another bucket so that I can go ahead and add it back to the composter. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this bucket and we'll be right back with it. Alrighty, so I finished sifting out the rocks. I finished sifting out all the other organic material that has not broke down yet. So let me show you my 3 buckets and what I have. So this one right here is the flower pot. I started putting all this organic stuff in here that hasn't fully broken down yet. This is going to go right back into the compost bin so that all these good microbes start helping breaking down the other stuff. Over here we got my bucket of rocks. Like I said, I'm not too worried about the soil and organic stuff in here, but that's my bucket of rocks that came out of that. And then this right here is my sifted soil. Nice black garden organic soil, and probably got, let's see, right about up to there, probably almost got a 5-gallon bucket full. So I can go ahead and transplant one of my other plants into their summer pots, get them ready for being put outside in my patio garden. Show you a little bit what's going on here. You can see my lavender, my onions, my peppers, my tomatoes, and my sage. These are all ready for patio growing. These are the summer pots they're going to stay in. Got them out here so that they could harden off a little bit today with the wind and the cooler temperature, and also get some sun. Now what I'm going to start doing is, because we're still only in April here, the beginning part of April in New England, there's always a chance we're going to get frost and snow right up until May. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's done. I mean, we had pretty lucky winter, so I'm going to go ahead and put them in the basement overnight so that they can start getting used to having that dark cycle. And then I take them out and put them out in the next morning in the sun, as long as it's not, you know, in the 40s or 30s. If it's going to be in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, then I'll go ahead and do it. This way here, they can start getting used to the warmer weather. I hope you enjoyed this video on composting 101 Basics Part 2 of making my makeshift soil shifter, and also making some good finished compost to use.